Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another Topical Tuesday, Lost Ark related. Woo! Topical Tuesday, the video series where we take a look at the Lost Ark subreddit over the last week and we see what's been popping. So if that sounds like your cup of tea and you want to hang out with me for like, I don't know, probably like 10-15 minutes. I'm trying not to go too long this time because I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I am a little bit sick. I think I'm on day 2, day 3 of the sickness. And my voice, I mean, it's doing alright right now, but my god, can this man yap. Anyways, let's take a look and see what people have been talking about over this last week. Looks like some Crucible stuff, weekly rewards, Nexus community stuff. Ooh, Mokoko raids from a real Mokoko. Let's start here, and then if I need more, I'll open up some more. But what weekly rewards should have been. Spend weekly mission points to obtain rewards. You have your Chaos Stone chest for 100 points. You got your 10. They want 10 stone engraving kits. Seriously, what the fuck is 1 stone? I mean, yeah, I would agree. Glacier's Breath crossed out, 1 mil silver. Lava's Breath bound, but he turned it into a selection box. I mean, I don't know, let's see what people say. Just wish there wasn't a red dot until it's captured, at the very least until 300. Add a checkbox to spend all points with 1 selection, +1. On the side of a player who basically has to click off any red dot notification ASAP in a game, call it OCD or being anal or what, but my brain tells me to click those buttons ASAP. In this case, it's so often, it's annoying the shit out of me. I used to be like that, but I think Lost Ark is a game that made me realize no matter how many times I cleared a notification, it was just going to come back immediately, and that literally that cured me. I no longer give a shit about notifications at all anymore in video games. But I totally understand that. Because I used to be the exact same way. And this game is what made me not that way anymore. Did they remove Uno's tokens after completing weeklies? Weekly Unos were removed alongside tokens. The gold was moved into Chaos Gate rewards. When making this, I was thinking 1 mil silver, 10 stone kits per week, not per mission. Was not aware you can claim these 3 times a week. The idea is just that silver should have been included in the rewards. The numbers don't mean much necessarily. The stone as a selector is already worth like 20 plus regular random stones. Still pretty shit when you get like 20 plus weeks worth of stones in a single hell key. That's a good idea, we'll add it to a new subscription. So it seems like people are very split and very unsure. That sounds about right for a video game in general, especially Lost Ark, knowing the community here, unfortunately. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about the weekly reward stuff. I mean, I think there's room for improvement for sure, but like, how would you rather it be improved? Whether it be quantities, whether it be items offered, I'm always interested. Shout out to the Nexus community. As a frequent consumer of the Nexus guides, the new format looks great. Good job, keep up the great work. Those oh god, my voice, hold on. Good job, and keep up the great work to those looking after the guide/pages. Everything else isn't great. Everything else is great in the new Nexus site, but Gunslinger still doesn't have an updated class guide there for neither of the specs. TTH guide literally says Venus. Scrapper just doesn't have an updated guide at all, not even max roll. You find all the info you need pinned in the unofficial Discord Scrapper info channel, as far as I know. Well, it's crazy. Peacemaker seems to be pretty filled out. No, it's got nothing about art grid. Still valid for the non-playstyle chain version. Playstyle channing version. Whatever the fuck that means. There's no info about the last request reset shotgun build, which has a higher DPS currently, but the self-movement can be difficult at times. Personally, I just usually check the top parsing builds in Uo and my item level range and go with that. Bit difficult if you've got different core drops and ults, but it usually works out to find someone in one of the item level or CP brackets with your desired cores as long as they're remotely viable. Unfortunately, Soulfist doesn't have a guide, not even as a joke. Doc version also not updated. It's not a popular class, it's still sad to see. Of course, what is there is still appreciated. Damn, does Soulfist just not have any players no more? I mean, surely there's got to be like one person that's still maintaining stuff. It's a thankless job, which is why I always thank people. I really do try my best to like thank people, like community-based stuff. And I always try to bring attention to community-based stuff because it's a lot of thankless work. A lot of people will complain and bitch about everything, but very seldomly do you get like someone being like, hey, thanks, man. You know? So I always try to be the change, you know? I know it's such a small thing, but it can mean a lot, you know, on that day. Since we're on the topic, where do we see what ability stone we should use for the classes? Can't find that info anywhere on the guide. Not really something every class community cared to math out. Lavier had one. You pretty much should have luck for the most part. Doesn't really matter that much. It's like a small damage difference. Yeah. Use the most universal one. There you go. The guides that have been filled out look good, particularly with mobile formatting. That being said, hopefully the rest of the guides can be filled out in a reasonable amount of time. Gunslinger guide was mentioned. Guides like Deadeye, Destroyer, Scrapper just don't exist or barely exist. With the changes to Discord coming soon, it's probably going to be much more painful as a community to receive informed proper builds. There's some classes, Deadeye for example, that just have no editors and haven't had any volunteers for a year or more. Breaker only recently got a BK guy that is slowly working on it. Of course, this is all done for free in our free time, so of course it takes us time. I personally haven't ported Shadowhunter fully yet, because whenever I have time to work on guides, I'm updating max roll first, lol. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I mean. This is what I always say when I say, like, what I was just literally just saying about the thankless, like, community work. Because it's like, they don't get anything for doing this. The people who make the guides, even the people who maintain the websites generally don't really get money for doing it. A lot of the times, especially for these smaller games, it's just like for the love of the game, literally. And it's just a bunch of people bitching at them to like do better. It's like, damn, bro. It's a community effort, you know what I mean? I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way slightly. Anyways. Maxroll has always been doing its best. Maxroll, Nexus community, all of them. Everybody that's ever contributed to the Lost Art community in any way. You know? Crucible ranking guide and feedback. A lot of people seem to be confused about how Paradise effects work and why sometimes it's actually better to not use a Fate Ember piece if it doesn't synergize properly with your build. So I'm here to try to help with that and also provide some feedback to AGS Smilegate for future seasons of this content. The guide. First off is establishing whether your damage type is physical or magical. This can be done by hovering over your skills and seeing whether the damage color is shown as orange, physical, or blue, magical. These can have further subcategories of things like holy or dark. There are more than just these, which you'll have to decipher yourself based on the skill's description or tripod, since this is different for every skill. Using this information, we can now decide which distortion effects to look out for on gear. All numbers are assuming SS resonance. Physical. For physical, we want to go for either, both, Wave of Silence, either/both, Wave of Silence, Liquor Glass, or White Flower Garden Ancient Mask. These both give minus 20% physical damage resistance chill on the boss. To then double this effect, Humidity, and make it minus 40% Frost Burst, we want to synergize it with either/both Mysterious Spring Water Whistle or Tide Origin Sensor. Last physical effects can be both good and bad depending on your variance tolerance. It will remove both the effects. Dude, this is really in-depth. If you are like a Crucible, like if you want to be an understander of Crucible, I think this is it. I don't think I'm going to go over this because this is actually way more in-depth than I thought. I'm not going to go over all of this and like the how-to and the guide, but like obviously look at this if you need the information. But I will read this stuff. Guide TLDR, orange equal physical damage. If most of your damage is physical, get, for example, Wave of Silence, Liquor Glass, Tide Origin Sensor to gain a lot of damage. Blue equal magic damage. If most of your damage is magic, get, for example, Maxwell Maximum Mask, Mysterious Spring Water Whistle, Holy Sword Descent Belt, and Wave of Fire Mirror to gain a lot of damage. Feedback. Big issue I have with Crucible concept is there's an artificial limit on how much you can play due to the silver cost and entry tickets. If you don't have enough silver, you basically can't compete due to how much RNG there is. If they want a limit on entry count, add a hard limit on the entry count. If they don't want a limit, remove the cost. Don't half-ass it. Feeding back into the high RNG variance bug/game engine adds to this issue, such as the boss spawn RNG resulting in widely varying kill times, even if the exact same rotation is done with overkill damage. Very noticeable when the boss's DR, the timing on the DR can vary a lot, resulting in over 1 second variances in kill times on under 10-second kills. While this effect is reduced in level 15 Crucible due to there not being any DR, the RNG spawn RNG can still determine whether you land a skill before the Just Guard or not, even if you could do it in a previous luckier spawn attempt. There's still some issues with incorrect text on pieces which can cause confusion, such as the White Flower Garden mask, stating that the distortion effect gives 10% instead of the 20% it's supposed to, and does give on the boss debuff bar. The gearing RNG variance was definitely improved in Season 2 compared to Season 1, however staying at the current difficulty of gearing still means it's heavily RNG based, and if you get unlucky you can't do anything about it other than pay to win lol. Sometimes you can't even choose which character you want to rank on because you can get lucky on one and unlucky on another. Just remove the 40% chance to reset cooldown discharge effects. I'll voice my objections to the pay-to-win aspects of the content through the cash shop, Zayna Blessing, cube exchange, character funneling, even though I know it won't change anything. Thank you for the guide. I think I'll be satisfied with getting top 30% and save the headache. Very valid. But this is what I mean also with like community stuff. Like I think this is a really well-written guide and like helps. It might not be the most helpful to somebody who just knows this implicitly or intrinsically, but I think there's a lot of people where something like this is super helpful, and I love it when people do stuff like this. Thanks so much for the information. Understanding Lost Ark is more complex than my computer science degree. True. As somebody who has no degrees in anything, true. I had a PhD in Lost Ark, baby. Or at least I had a fucking PhD in Lost Ark, at least. Mokoko raids from a real Mokoko. I know the Mokoko raids has flaws with rats and vet Mokokos, but it has been a total success for me, at least. This event, for some reason, seems like every group is taking Mokoko, even in Armosh. So first of all, I'd like to thank all you vets for doing that. Second, actually being able to get into a raid group without hours of gatekeeping has brought a new spark to the game for me. I started back a couple months ago after a 2-year break. I had little interest of trying to get through the gate 0, so I basically just did solo raids. With the new pass and solo raids just not doing it anymore, I decided to try to get into some raids. I get new players don't get to really see all the mechanics in lower raids, but even just getting used to the boss's normal patterns has helped a ton. TLDR, yes, there are flaws, but the real Mokoko's taking advantage and actually trying to learn. It's been a game saver. Hopefully, as the veterans get shops bought out, they will continue to help us with getting our clears done. I think for the vast majority of them, they probably won't, but some definitely will. A lot of people, I think, just see them as a shop to buy out. But I think I've always said it, even if the Mokoko system doesn't fix the problems with the game, it's better for it to exist than to not exist, because it's just factually true. You don't need to thank anyone for doing that, they're doing it for their own good. The issue with Mokoko Boot Camp is that once you lose your status, it's pretty much game over. No one will want to touch you with a very long stick. That is a very big issue with it, yes. I think the subreddit needs to understand that no new player-focused system will ever be flawless. Unfortunately, people will abuse the system unless we get some kind of huge change. I do agree. I think this, like I said, the system has a lot of issues, and it always has had a lot of issues, and I think there's always room for improvements and iterations, and iterating it into a more positive position. But even in its current state, and even in its first state that it was ever introduced in, it's still better for it to exist than to not exist, you know what I mean? It's just, don't let perfect get in the way of, like, doing something, you know? That's how I look at things, or I try to look at things. I'd never expect flawless, but I do think it needs more work as something that helps Mokoko and doesn't help so much for an alt roster. As is, I'd say it's abused for rice farming or alt rostering 50x more than when someone like OP comes around. Making breed clears as Mokoko and Mokoko content gives primarily roster-bound gold, which would probably single-handedly fix it and solve a lot more issues than but new players need gold for the MB problem that derives from it. At this point, there are so many systems you can get into without touching the MB. Heck, almost everything required to get the CP for normal mode raids can be bought from the solo shop or gold shop. Paradise Chest Solve, roster-bound gold. Paradise Chest Solve and roster-bound gold solve the rest. I got someone in Act 4 telling me, hey Mokoko, next time don't suck. I did die because of the revive. I wasn't completely out. Gotta love people. Yeah, that's just people, unfortunately. I disagree with the feeling that once you leave the Mokoko status, it's over. If you've built your character sufficiently, like bare minimum 7s, a bit of art grid, just show the effort, not even activated. Karma done on 21, it's enough. The game seems easy in normal mode now. There's only people who should just genuinely stop playing Malding over one wipe at this point. Like, for real, M+ run in WoW can take longer than most raids in Lost Ark. You failed out on the last boss, GG, you're -1 key level, try again, bozo. I don't know. I think there's always going to be unhinged people in, like, literally any game. That's just how games work. There's always going to be unhinged people. It's just, how frequent is the unhingedness being a problem, you know? And again, I do think the biggest takeaway from being a Mokoko, if I were to come back to the game and play from brand new status for some reason, like in this world, I would try my best to make friends, because making friends and playing with consistent people is like the way to enjoy Lost Ark, and that's how I enjoyed it for so long. But I don't think you guys need me to tell you that. I think most people who probably still enjoy the game are like that, because pugging has always been not super fun, in my experience, as someone who pugged a lot of shit. Anyways, I'll give my voice a break, and I'm sure you guys are, I don't know, I hope you guys are doing well, at least. I was gonna say, I'm sure you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing well. In any case, I'll stop yapping. As always, thanks for hanging out. Like the video if you like it, subscribe. Thank you to my YouTube members, It's Business Andrew, Diz, Remix My Life. Love all you guys very, very much, and I'll see you guys all very, very soon. Goodbye!